Excellent. Hello, everybody. So this is our second info night of the week. We are doing our general overall info night tonight. For those that had just joined, it will be recorded. And so don't take notes frantically. This is more of an overview of our program, just to give you all a heads up of what we're about and what we're going to be up to. Okay, so I always like to start our info nights with making sure that everybody that's in our program understands what our mission statement is and also kind of what our values are. So I like to read it for everybody, just for those that might be driving a car and listening. To provide a comprehensive sailing program for all youth in the Bay Area, from Learn to Sail to nationally recognized travel teams, our classes stress safety and cultivate the values of character, community, and competitiveness. Our program instills a lifelong enjoyment and stewardship of our waterways, oceans, and world environment. This is a picture here of it was actually over a Halloween last year, kind of in the middle of COVID. We were able to safely pull off a pretty cool event, a little regatta for all our cubes and our opties. If you are brand new, these are the boats, these colorful boats are what you are going to be learning in as a little kid, the Learn to Sail classes. The values of PY. So again, here's another picture of some folks sailing or pulling their cubes up the ramp. Character, community, and competitiveness. Those are our big core values that we are always striving to instill in our kids. So be accountable, respectful, positive, and a team player. Be an active and positive part of PYSF and the sailing communities. We're a pretty big community worldwide. And competitiveness. Work hard every day to improve and to help your team improve. And at the end of the day, what we do at PYSF is you kind of think like mom and dad, what are you trying to instill in your kids just as being kids? We always want to be focused on making good humans. We obviously want all of our kids to get really good at sailing and to love it and to sail until they're 95. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure we are helping your kids turn into good humans. And these are the values that we are constantly trying to instill in our group. Okay, who we are. Again, for those that are brand new to our program, which we have a handful of them, a lot of them actually this season and last season as well. We have two venues. So we have a venue at the Port of Redwood City, and that is where PYSF started about 20 years ago. And that is at the Chesapeake Boat Ramp. It was started by a handful of parents, again, 20 years ago, that basically said, hey, we really want a place for kids to be able to sail that's close here on the peninsula. And so they worked with the Port of Redwood City. And so we have a program that runs out of there. We quickly outgrew that space and we partnered with the club at West Point. So West Point Harbor is farther down the road, down at the end of Seaport. And we have been partners with the club at West Point for going on almost about 3 years. They are in the midst of building their clubhouse. It's a newly formed club, and as you start to come to our programs, you're going to see, oh wow, it's a pretty sweet spot. And it's pretty nice once you get down to South Bay. You're looking out over the hills on the other side of the bay, and it kind of feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere, just in the middle of the marsh. So 2 venues. We have 9 coaches. We have about 150 kids. In the summer, we get to about 250. So a pretty big program. Again, once they head off to college, we aren't teaching you in our classes or race teams anymore, but typically once you've gone off to college, those folks are coming back and they're teaching the younger kids. And that's kind of our goal of the program, is that we are constantly, it's like once you're in PY, we become a family and we're always together. It's kind of nice to see all the guys and girls coming back in the summer. We have a lot of boats, so 20 cubes, those are the little colorful boats that you saw, 12 opties, 26 flying juniors, which is what the high school kids sail, 15 Club 420s, and a bunch of safety boats. And again, these are all our classes.
And just give me a sec, sweetie, hold on.
And if I could get everybody to mute, it will just double check that you're actually muted. Okay, so here are our coaches for the spring, and I know we have a handful of them on the call. And for those that have been following along on our social media, we are in the process of building a very big deck, a 40 by 40 foot deck over in one of our classroom areas between the containers. And so a lot of these coaches, and they're getting called in right now, are there building. And so we're carpenters on the side as well. But let's see who we have in the background here. Is John Vandemore not here yet? So I can see Hannah jumping up, but I do see Chris. Chris, would you like to say hello? You're probably on mute.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris. I will be mainly focusing on the high school this season, pretty much all throughout this. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes, boss. Jeez. So I'm focusing on the high school. I'm very excited to meet the new group of high school sailors who are coming in. You have any questions or anything like that, feel free to message me on Signal anytime. I love questions. You can send me questions anytime. I will be the one who is doing the most of the traveling with the high school team. So I'll be the representative that we have at most of the regattas. Again, if you have questions about that sort of things, you can send that to me. Our first one is coming up very soon. So we should have registration out for that one. But again, we'll getting a little bit off topic. I'm just introducing myself. We'll have more of that information at the high school one. It's great to see everybody, and we will see you soon. All right, Todd's next.
Excellent, Todd.
Hello, everybody. I'm Todd Vostias, and I'll be coaching FJ Intro and all the keelboat classes, and really excited to get out on the water with you guys and even do some keelboat racing this session, which is a new class for us that I'm really excited about. Yeah, I love taking people and getting them to the next level, whether it's in dinghies or keelboats, and having fun. I'll be teaching you guys how to fly the spinnaker as well in the keelboats, which is a nice stable platform to learn that on. And I'm looking forward to this session, coaching you guys. You can also ask me questions, but not as many as Chris.
Awesome.
And then John's next.
Excellent. Okay, and so John, we have John Vandemore coming up. And if you were on our info night last night, you got to hear a lot from John.
Hello, my name is John, as you've heard. I'm coaching the OptiChamp group and development. I've been doing a few other clinics as well. I just did a high school clinic last weekend. I've been helping out with 420s too, so I kind of rove around, but my primary job is coaching OptiChamp and development. I also have a full-time job. I'm an engineer by trade, so I work during the week in engineering. So I do most of my coaching on the weekend and doing the Opti Regattas as well. And I guess everybody's saying, but if you want to ask me questions too, you could do that as well.
Awesome. And I think last in that office right there is Hannah.
Hello.
Most of you, I think, have heard from Hannah.
Hopefully. I'm Hannah. I grew up here in the Bay Area, sailing in high school and college. I was really lucky. And now I work here and I'm helping do most of the admin and making sure everybody's getting in the right classes. And it's really cool because I get to see them work their way up through our program.
Exactly. Yes. Pretty much all of our Learn to Sail intro, the FJ intro, all our intro level classes, Hannah will be seeing you at all of them, which is fantastic. I'm not positive if we have Katie Love. I got a message. Katie, are you on? But she might not be making it, but Katie as well will be coaching with Hannah in a lot of our intro, learn intro to race. Was that Katie? Maybe not. And also all of our high school regattas. She's going to be traveling with Chris as well. I can see Jack is here. Jack Lugliani. You want to say hi?
Hello, everyone. I'm Jack. I'll be helping out with the keelboat classes, and looks like I'll be helping out with high school a bit. I started sailing at PY, and I've been sailing here for like 7 years. So that's me. And you can ask me questions, but everyone else can answer them better.
Awesome. Josh, I'm not sure, Josh, one of our 420 intro high school coach. Don't think he's making our call, both Josh and Renee. Josh is a PY sailor as well, a design tech grad, and doing a gap year this year, doing a bunch of I-420 and a little bit of 470 sailing, and then coaching here while he's also going to junior college, getting ready to go off to college next fall. Renee is going to be coaching the 420 race team and has been last season with John. And so John Bertrand is right here. You want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I grew up learning to sail in the Bay Area as well. In fact, within a 5-mile radius of where PY is. I went on to do international racing, been to the Olympics, done America's Cup racing, offshore racing. But I'm really, really excited to come back and be able to coach in the area. I've also done a fair bit of Olympic coaching. And Renee and I are a great partnership with the 420 race team. And our focus is really on, exposing the sailors to the basics of racing, as well as the specifics of the 420 class. But the things that we hope to instill in our sailors will be lessons that they're going to be able to take on, to whatever class they race in, and forever how long they stay in the sport. So I'm really excited to get going this spring, and we've got some great plans.
Definitely. And for those that are on the call and interested about our 420 program, we're going to have an info night tomorrow night as well for our 420 program specifically, where John and Renee and Chris are going to do a bunch of talking about what the season looks like, summer and forward. So thank you guys. And if you've never met me before, now you have. My name's Molly. I'm the director. We have a very big team. These are all of the coaches that we have, and we also have others that come in and help from time to time. We're running a lot of classes, again, out of both of our venues. And this team that we have here, I love these guys and girls. They work super hard. They throw their heart into everything they do. And again, with our end goal of making good humans that are hopefully sailing until you guys are 95. Let me go. So this is somewhat, when you first look at it, whoa, there's a lot on this page. Again, this is for our first, welcome to PY. Whoa, I've never sailed before, or hey, I'm in this boat and I don't really know what I'm going to be doing next. This is an overview of what our classes are and what we offer here at PY. So if you're brand new to the sport, the two places that you would join us and find us are in the Learn to Sail and or the FJ Intro class. Okay, so that is, I've never sailed before and I'd like to get into a boat. Learn to Sail is for the little guys, if you're up to 11 years old. And then FJ Intro is, we find a lot of people 11, 12, 13 that just found us and they want to get into the sport, and that's what the FJ Intro is for. So if you start, when you're a little one, you're going to kind of go along the top of the screen. You can follow these, the white boxes along the top. That's all of our Opti and small one-person boat classes. And then you can see at the end of that white line, you transition to an FJ or a 420. So the idea is that we are, kind of like what John was just saying about the 420, and our goal is you leave here with this solid foundation. You leave the one-person Opti track with a really solid foundation, and then we add on the complication of sailing with another person, with more than one sail, a bigger fleet, trapezing, lots of different, maybe a team of 4 people and you're on a keelboat, so there's more momentum. You're worrying about anchoring, like all sorts of stuff. So we're stepping through, we're adding on layers of complexity as the kids are ready for it. High school sailing, team racing, getting into 420s, keelboats, these are all the different types of boats we have and the classes that we offer. And this, we will send these to everybody. We get asked this question a lot. So this is a really kind of a helpful visual for those that need to kind of grasp what we have to offer here. So again, we have a very packed schedule. These are all of our classes that are going to be happening out of our Chesapeake venue. So the Chesapeake venue is the first one that you pass as you exit off of 101 or come down Woodside. This is the boat ramp that is managed by the Port of Redwood City. It's currently under massive construction. The whole thing has been jackhammered up with the expectation that it is done in another week and a half, and we'll be able to use it. And so all of our classes start after that, except for our high school, which we've already talked with the high school folks. So these are all the classes that are running out of Chesapeake. So check who your coach is. You should already know this most likely because you've seen it on your Signal chat and in an email from Hannah, but just in case you have a question. So the other thing that Todd mentioned, you can see circled on the bottom right there, is the Friday Fun Series Regatta. So the keelboat racing, we have 2 sessions of it. And the Friday Fun Series it's hosted by the club at West Point. And it is basically, for those that are sailors, you sail big boats, the idea of like what they would call a beer can race, where it's you all start together and you race out into set buoys out in the middle of the bay and you race back. That's the type of racing that these guys will do. The series happens once a month starting in April and goes all the way through the summer and into September. And so 2 of our sessions, Keelboat Racing 1 and 2, they end with the regatta race day. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. We're working towards the race. So you'll be practicing what the race will be like in the session. The other thing to note for the high school sailors and the new folks that might be on this call, there's a tryout week for our high school program, February 8th through 10. And then we'll be having our info night after our tryouts are finished. It's not tryouts that you'd be you wouldn't make the cut. It's more for those that are brand new to the sport and aren't sure if they like it. And so those are the 3 days of practice that we'd love for you guys to come and try it out. These are the classes that are offered at our West Point venue. And the classes that we have at West Point are typically kind of more of our race team or folks that have already finished the intro level, most of the intro level classes. West Point Harbor is closer, farther down the road if you're driving, closer to the bay. And so we tend to have our, race team level folks able to go out into the bay quickly for practice. And then also if you've sailed there before, it's a pretty narrow little channel. It's a lot of upwind sailing right away. So if you've never sailed before, it's pretty challenging to throw you in the water there for the very first time. So we do most of our intro level classes over at Chesapeake in our high school practices. And then all of the race team and folks are out of West Point. So again, you'll see the timings here and who's coaching. If you have not seen this before, and this is brand new to you, my guess is that you have not gotten an email or gotten yourself onto the Signal chat. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we want to make sure that we get you connected. Now, Hannah is going to give a quick little overview of stuff to wear and, all of the important info for the newbies, especially.
All right, so I'm going to try to make it really quick. Number 1, we're taught like safety gear. So when it comes to helmets and life jackets, those are kind of like the big money spenders. And if you're still not really sure whether you're like, okay, I'm gung-ho, I want to be here until I'm 18 and then continue sailing, we do have helmets to rent. And we have a few life jackets for like when kids forget one, but the life jacket is really the one that you want to like take a minute and get one that you really like and that you're comfortable in. And so just as an example, I actually have Molly's life jacket here. So when you wear a life jacket, you want it not to go down below your waist. So when you're sitting down, it's not in the way. And so that's a big thing about life jackets. And we get a few kids that show up with like jet ski life jackets and wakeboarding, and they go a little long and they can be a little uncomfortable in the boat. So that's the safety aspect. Number 2, material wise, on here you can kind of see everything looks like synthetic, and that's what you want to stick with. So coming to practice in a big cotton sweatshirt and jeans would be like the number one most wrong thing you could do, because cotton not only like isn't really waterproof, but it also gets really cold once it's wet. So as opposed to like fleece or a spray or like a rain jacket. So just making sure that whatever you're bringing, all these layers, the hats, the socks, all that, none of it is cotton if you're going to be sailing in a boat with it. And that's really like the number one, because as soon as you get cold at the end of the day, it's no fun anymore. And then, so you can kind of see on here, I don't know, like rain versus spray gear. So that's a great way of putting it, is like there's spray gear specifically for sailing, but a lot of the things you probably already have at your house that you can use. So if you're not ready to buy a spray top because you're not really sure, you can just get a rain shell, like making sure that it's waterproof and windproof, and that's perfect. As well as like even yoga pants or something that's synthetic, anything that you can put on that isn't cotton and isn't gonna soak up water a bunch.
And then also I'd probably just back up the importance of a wetsuit. So the little guys, you're gonna spend a fair amount of time in the water, and you know your kids, if they're kids that tend to be cold, get them in a wetsuit. If you're comfortable, it's a lot easier to learn and obviously to have fun. So making sure that you're warm. The beanie, the extra warm hat to put on is just money, right? So make a big bag, put your name on everything, throw it inside a bag, make sure it can zip close. So it's not like a little, the IKEA bags are awesome, but not when your 9-year-old picks up one handle and then walks away with it with one handle and the other part just kind of flies out on the ground and leaves a trail behind them. So something that zips up, something big. It can be a big mesh bag, that you throw the baseballs in or whatever. But put your name on everything, and having more is always good, because then they can put more on, they can change and put on some, dry stuff, that type of thing. Hannah, was there anything else? That I think you kind of hit on everything.
So just making sure that you've got a big bag to hold all your stuff, so it's not running away from you and you're not, oh, my bag was too small to fit this really important piece of equipment that I don't have today. So making sure you get some kind of big bag that's sealable. Awesome. And one last thing, making sure that you're bringing a mask, extra masks, and at least one mask in a Ziploc bag, because you want to make sure that no matter what, you've got at least one dry mask at all times. Yeah,
so we are, we at this point had hoped we were beyond this, but we definitely are still in the middle of, everybody's catching this new variant. So we are going to be wearing masks on land. For those that have never done our sport before, you're kind of like, wait, how does this work? Anytime that they are on the water, they won't need to wear their mask. So like Hannah said, having a Ziploc bag that they can put their mask into and into their life jacket, or the coach takes it. The idea is that when they get off the boat, you're still going to be kind of walking from, remember those pictures where the girls were pulling the boats up from the boat ramp? You're going to be walking from the water to the hose. We want to be able to put on a mask when you get on land. So having extra masks, a little tucked in their bags that they come with. And then their life jackets, will find a way to put them in. Most of the life jackets have like a little pocket that we can tuck them into. And then we also want to make sure that everybody's doing their symptom check prior to coming to practice. So again, I think most of you are probably doing this for school already. I know that I have 2 little kids and I do this on a daily basis, checking that you don't have a fever, you don't have any symptoms, cold symptoms. If anybody has a close contact that you have at home, obviously we need to be notified ASAP. Again, that's what the Signal chat's for. If you don't want to send it into the whole chat, and that's what's great about Signal, you can send us a private message as well. But we want to make sure that we're staying on top of this, and you can see all the classes that we're offering, and all of our coaches, they tend to coach multiple classes. So imagine if one class has to isolate and quarantine and go home. It affects all of our classes. And so most likely we'll have to stop in order to make sure that we're safe enough to start again. So being really, really diligent about doing your self-check before coming and wearing our masks on land. So the next thing is, and I love this little, we have a bunch of stickers like this. People say, oh, you know, what's my rule? What do I do? You are going to hear from us a lot that we would love for you to basically go away. We know that none of this happens without you, and you make it possible for your kids to get to practice. You obviously, you know, help register, and, you know, you make all of this happen. But the goal is that our kids are doing all of the sport related stuff on their own. So the goal is that they are able to get their boats down. They are putting their boats together. They're working as a team to actually help each other do it. When, you know, you'd be amazed at the little 8-year-olds. You put 6 of them together, they can get the boat down and they can put the boat together. So it's actually pretty, it's impressive, but it requires moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas to sit back, cheer them on, and to watch from afar. So the big thing that we tend to tell our Learn to Sail parents is that we'd love for you to watch and you can see everything that they're doing, but we don't want you to be seen. So you're going to hear that from Hannah a lot at all of the first couple of weeks of practice. We usually have to do a couple of reminders for a while before everybody, you know, we set up times that it's very much you can be there and be involved. But for the majority of our classes and our practices and any of the learning, we want the kids to be doing it on their own. I put in here one of the bullet points, logistics for travel. Once your child starts to graduate into some of the racing teams, there's a lot of travel involved, both, you know, just within the Bay Area, but up and down the coast, across to Florida, you know, up to the Gorge. And obviously all of those logistics, we need your help. It's impossible without you. But again, we want to make sure that the kids, they're our point person. We are always going to the sailor first. And then we usually tend to copy our message to the parents. Hey, FYI, we just told the kids this. And so this is a thing that most parents are like, this is awesome. And for those you're going, oh, I don't know how this is going to go, I am happy to hold your hand through the process. You're going to be really, really happy in a few months when you watch your little kid say like, I got this, mom. And the don't let me help. We have a lot of t-shirts like this. You'll see those around on the parents that have been here for a few years, where they're well aware of the high fives are allowed, but all the other stuff, we stand back and we watch the kids. Okay, so the next slide is about how to stay connected. So again, if we're telling you like, you know, stand back and we just want the kids around and no parents, obviously that's not true. You know, we have bazillions of ways for you to be involved and on site for a lot of things. Towing to regattas. So during COVID, the last, 2+ years, we didn't have very many travel events. We didn't tow to many regattas, and we've slowly started doing it again. For those that have never seen, you can see the picture on the left-hand side, never, ever thought of connecting a trailer to the back of your car and taking a motorboat or sailboats to an event, you will be doing that within a few months. And for those that just, panic and anxiety starts to set in, we are here to help teach you as well how to tow. We do lessons all the time. Some parents, just spend about an hour with me or Hannah or Todd or Chris going through the steps of how to tow. And some like to do it 3 or 4 times, practice like when you're learning how to drive, right? So you practice on the side streets, you eventually graduate yourself to the freeway. The biggest thing that tends to, sort of somewhat panic the new drivers is, oh gosh, how am I going to be able to reverse this trailer? We actually don't need you to reverse a trailer. We have all of our trailers with jacks on them. And the point is you get to the venue of wherever we're going, you unhitch your car, and then you have all of these kids and coaches standing there waiting to move the trailer for you. So the complicated, hard part of driving a trailer, in reverse and putting it into the perfect parking spot, that is something that you're welcome to learn and practice and be able to do, but we don't need you to do that at the very beginning. When we start,
I have a question. So I'm not sure I got it. So you are saying that we need to tow the boat?
So if you will not be going to any regattas until you've graduated to a race team.
Oh,
So
okay.
when
this is
you
the
are
future.
in
Okay.
Learn to Sail or FJ Intro as like an intro class, there are no regattas involved. So you will not be towing. As your child, hopefully our goal is that your child says, this is so awesome, I want to keep going. So your next session that your sailor takes, that might involve going to a regatta. And so maybe there's one regatta. And when we go to an event, we typically take anywhere from 4 to 14 trailers. So it depends on how big the event is and what types of boats are going. But we take our coach boats and all of our sailboats. It's sort of like a circus. All of our boats that we have here at the venue, we're like, okay, all these kids are going to go race. We take all the masts down, we load them up onto trailers, we drive them to the event, undo the circus tent, take all the boats down, put the mast up, go sailing for the weekend, take everything down, put it back on the trailers, and bring it back home for practice the next.
Got it. And in that case, you probably need like SUV to tow it, not a sedan to tow it, right?
So you can tow with a sedan. We'll talk through that when you get to the
Okay,
point
yep.
of racing.
Okay.
But yes, you can tow with all sorts of different cars. It doesn't need to be a big sedan. Work parties. So you can see this picture of all of this gravel and orange buckets and shovels. So this is our venue over at Chesapeake. We filled it in. It used to be like a kind of a muddy mess. We filled it in multiple times, but this time we had 50 tons of gravel that our kids and parents spread out in a 2-hour time frame. It was amazing. This was just one little corner of what everybody pulled off, but the longer you're here at PY, you'll realize that we do everything we do is all community based. Like we do it all together as a team. And so like currently we're doing a 40 by 40 foot deck. That's where all these guys at West Point are still working. We are having a work party on Saturday morning just to finish putting the actual boards on. And so that's probably what West Point's going to look like Saturday morning, with a bunch of people with impact drivers and putting in the last half of our boards. We usually tend to have work parties about one a season. We obviously took a long break from any work parties during COVID, but we are starting to start those up again. In the summer, we have family nights. It's another great way to meet all of our new families and new sailors, and for you guys to get out on the boat. For those that don't know about sailing, if you look onto our website, we have all of our summer dates up and the family nights are listed. The goal is that you complete kind of like a Learn to Sail session in the summer, and then everybody comes down and we have all the boats for the kids to use and all the families get to meet each other. Last couple bullets are about joining the mailing list and Signal chat. So you've heard us talk a lot about Signal. It's pretty important that you guys, we used to use WhatsApp. We now use Signal. That's the quickest way to get any of our attention. And that's how we're going to get your attention first. And then we follow up. I'm hopeful that you all have received at least one update from me, the spring update number 1. I tend to do an update about once a week. Sometimes it might go every other week. But just one general update that kind of has everything. You're always going to be able to hear from us through Signal, and each of our classes has their own specific Signal chat. You're also going to get pictures from practice and regattas and such like that, get an update from the coach. So that's really the best way to stay connected with us. Okay, and so there we go, Signal chat, best way. We have this on here, the private coaching. There's a lot of folks that like to get extra time on the water. You're welcome to go sailing on your own as the race team members. That requires, and the race team members already know this, but it requires setting up, we know when you're going to be there. We do this all through Signal, and there's a check-in and check-out process. But for those that want to have some extra coaching on the side, we're happy to set that up for you. You just coordinate with the coach. Obviously when we're in the middle of the season, we're super busy and the coaches are running all of our different practices. So it's hard to find some free time for our coaches, but it is possible. So if that is something that interests you, you're welcome to. I have up here 3 emails. So that's why all the folks at West Point laugh, like, you can ask me questions too. We do get a lot of people that want to ask questions kind of offline and have a conversation without the big group. Again, Signal is the best way to do it, but if you'd like to send an email, this is my email, Chris's email for all the high school folks, and Hannah gets a lot of our emails as well now too, which is fantastic to have her help. So if you'd like to send an email, that's how you do it. And I'm now going to open it up to questions or comments or concerns. Anyone?
Sorry, I was late, so maybe not, you mentioned it. Why Signal? Why not other mechanism?
That's just what we do. That's the easiest answer. We've had lots of, hey, why don't we do Slack? Why don't we do Team Snap? Why don't we do we are sticking with Signal. We're sticking with Signal.
Hi, I
Yeah.
have a question about the high school group.
Yeah.
So we are completely new to the program,
Mhm.
but with, I was a little thrown about the, I guess the outfits, the clothing and how to prep for that, especially if there's a tryout week. What do you recommend parents do?
So if you're brand new to high school and you're just coming to the tryout, you want to wear something that you'd be comfortable. If they have a wetsuit, that'd be great. Wetsuit would be best. If you don't have a wetsuit, I would wear, leggings, some kind of like technical clothing, right? And then don't come in a sweatshirt. So I jokingly pulled up my hood. Don't come in a hooded sweatshirt. Come with like a windbreaker. And that will be enough. Let's say it's just freezing cold and we're putting the boats away and it's dark when they're putting the boats away. Great to put on a big, like a ski jacket, have that stuffed in the bag, or a big beanie, wool hat to keep themselves warm. So the tryouts they're not going to be, well, most likely they won't be swimming, but you just never know. So that's kind of why we say, oh yeah, wear a wetsuit just in case. The tryouts, you'll spend some time on the motorboat. They get to watch. It's more about them kind of seeing what it's all about versus like, hey, we're going to throw you into the drill and you're sailing right away.
One other quick thing on that is making sure that you're bringing shoes that have your toes closed in. They can be like, a lot of people just use old tennis shoes, and that's perfect because they've got grip. They're not going to bonk their toes on anything. You can also use water shoes or those like fancy Keens that are all enclosed, but making sure you have closed-toed shoes because we're at a public boat ramp and you don't want to be walking around barefoot.
The other thing
And
to
the-
consider as well is to layer your clothing. So if you do 2 or 3 layers, then that's similar to what a wetsuit does. So it kind of traps the body's heat instead of if you just had a cotton, it'll draw the heat out of you.
If you
Okay.
guys are skiers, think of,
Yes.
what you do at skiing, right? So you want
Okay.
like a waterproof outer shell if possible, and then layers underneath.
Okay. And then the life jacket, at least for at the beginning, that's something that I don't need to go out and get just for these few, at least for the tryout time.
Correct. We have we have enough life jackets to cover you for that first week, and also helmets as well.
One more question on the clothing. If we have a wetsuit, do you still recommend something over it, like a jacket underneath the life jacket, or is the wetsuit enough with the life jacket?
I would bring, Hannah might answer as well, but I would bring the jacket. Some kids, like my son is 5 and it's 40 degrees outside and he's in a t-shirt and shorts. He's never cold. But some kids, a wetsuit still, the windbreaker of a shell on top of the wetsuit is even better. So you know how we said overload the bag? Put it in the bag, and then when Hannah or Katie or whoever sees, the little one that was like, this one's cold, and we can go back to their bag, put on a jacket, and then life is all good and they can handle themselves for the next couple hours.
And a beanie as well, for
Mhm.
sure, a hat. That's where a lot of your body heat escapes from. So if you're ever cold, put a hat on.
Any other questions?
There was a spreadsheet that was circulated earlier. It had events on it, but they were dated in the fall.
Yeah.
So September, October. I couldn't quite understand that. Again, you're talking to a complete beginner here. So
Totally. So that is from last season. And that is just there for, we're going to go over it during the info night. Like once everybody's joined the team, you don't even, just ignore that tab. That will be populated with our regattas for the spring once we know who's on our team. For those that are curious about the high school sailing, we tend to have anywhere from 12 to 15. I think we had 18 schools last season represented, and high school sailing is a national organization that they've been racing. Like I did high school sailing, Hannah did, we all did high school sailing, and John did high school sailing. They have national championships. It's just like any other high school sport. So you represent your high school, and you do district-wide qualifications in order to get to the national level. And we have the boats we sail are the FJs, and those high school sailors go up and down California for the big events. And we also have a handful of events that are within the Bay Area.
I'm curious what the difference is between like the high school sailing versus the 420 racing. I mean, obviously the boats, but my son is doing the high school sailing now, but he was asking me, how is that different from the 420 race team, sort of structurally and so forth?
So the 420, so the high school sailing is done in an FJ that has two sails, so a main and a jib. The 420 adds two elements just within the boat. So the differences between the two boats, the 420 has a spinnaker, which is a third sail, so a colorful sail, this big sail that you put up when you go with the wind. And it also adds a trapeze, so a wire that one of the sailors hangs out on to help leverage the boat, to help keep it flat. So you're adding, more things to do on the boat. And then the other difference is that it's a smaller team. So it's a smaller practice, and you start across the board for both race teams. You're focusing on boat handling and strategy and tactics and teamwork. All of that's the same. The difference is you're focused more on, for 420s, you're focused on a more complicated boat, but also longer race courses. So a 420 race is usually about 45 minutes long, and you're going, around a race course. A high school race is about 15 to 20 minutes long. So it's a lot more close interaction with the high school sailing. You also add in for high school sailing team racing, which you do not do in the 420s. Team racing is where it's kind of like chess. So you have your team of 3 racing against 3 other boats from another high school. And you're trying to do math, and you're trying to do all sorts of maneuvers in order to make your team cross the finish line with a winning combination.
And I might add to that, high school sailing builds a lot of different skills that you can then take on to other type of racing. If you want to use an analogy, it would be like high school sailing is like playing a half-court basketball game, where the 420 sailing is full court, full session. So it takes it up to the next level, but having a really solid high school skill level will help when you move up to that level.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's very much, again, sort of like all of our classes, that you want to build the solid foundation before you do what's next. We encourage, that's why we have the combo option for our high school. In my perfect world, every person that's on the race team is doing both high school and 420, because then you're really building a strong foundation.
You said a math. What kind of math are we talking about? Just like a distance, time calculation, or more than that?
Oh, math. So you're basically like counting scores, right? So if you finish first, you get 1 point. And if you finish 15th, you get 15 points.
Oh,
so you do multiple races, it's like simple math, but you're trying to, obviously sail your boat really well and know every piece that you're working on, all those other boats. Everybody's moving and doing all sorts of things that you might not expect. So it's a lot of processing going on constantly. And you add a second person in the boat, you got to make sure that you're sharing information properly and at the right time to keep yourself moving forward.
Got it.
For the younger kids who are doing the FJ course, what is it that they're going to be learning? So, like, what does that look like?
The FJ, so like the FJ intro class is geared towards those that are brand new to the sport and or brand new to sailing with a partner. So you're going to have the folks that have sailed and done opties and sailed a one-person boat maybe for a season or a year. And you're going to have the folks that have never seen the sport before and jumped in for the first time. So they are learning the basics of sailing a two-person boat. So it's sail trim, it's understanding where the wind's coming from, it's time and distance, it's momentum.
Parts of the boat, like super basic stuff.
Yeah.
And
It is-
then
Notice-
typically people take this class once and then move on, or like
So
what-
everybody is different. Some kids are, they take it once and they're like, oh yeah, I got it. And they're ready for the next step. Some kids like to take it 2 times, 3 times, sometimes 4 times. And not necessarily that they aren't understanding it. It might be that they just need more time on the water, like more repetition of the sport in order to be confident enough. It's basically building confidence and building knowledge and making sure that those 2 things are set before we put them into a place where we're adding on to what they already have learned. And the coaches basically update the sailors and update the parents along the way. So usually we wait till about halfway through the session and we give an update of like, hey, here's where we're at for each kid. And the interesting part, especially for Learn to Sail, when you're in the littler kids, it will be drastically different week to week. So, I hear from Hannah sometimes like, oh man, we're on week 4 and man, like they're just not getting this, and this, like whatever the pieces are. And then the next week she just starts laughing. She's like, they did it. It all clicked and they were sailing upwind, tacking, doing it all. And so I think the thing to remember is, parents, is to say the update week to week is going to be, at the beginning is going to be pretty broad. Like, yeah, they're great. The most important thing you want to hear is that they're having fun. They might have the challenging day where they're like, that wasn't much fun. Learning a new sport sometimes isn't that much fun, but ready to come back and ready to like take on the next day. And then being patient, really waiting until the end to hear about where they're going next. We're not going to know really for sure until we get towards the very end of class.
So there was a question on the chat about where you can buy and try on a skiff suit. I'm not really sure where you could go, so I'm kind of opening that up. I know that there's a store called West Marine, and they have a lot of sailing gear, but I'm going to let maybe Molly and John take this one.
So the skiff suits, basically a skiff suit is a wetsuit that is an overall. That's the only difference. So you don't have arms. You don't have arms. So the idea of the life jackets that we want all our kids to wear are the kayaking type of life jackets, not the water skiing and wakeboarding type. Again, the most important thing is that you're able to move your arms, and that for the wetsuit or for the life jacket, that it's short enough because you're sitting all the time and most of the time in sailing. The ability to move your arms around is really important, simply because they're constantly doing it. They're pulling on lines, they're moving the tiller around. And imagine if you have lots of resistance and you're wasting energy just on the clothing that you're wearing. That's why people have skiff suits in sailing, because it allows their arms to move freely. And like John mentioned, you layer, so you put on a top, maybe multiple tops, depending on how cold it is, but you want your arms to be able to move, your core is nice and warm, and that's what you focus on. Where to try it on? I would say that there aren't many places here in person. Not super, there's not many options. Most of it's online. So it might require a little bit of back and forth of ordering one and sending it back. not a better answer on the in-person part.
Hey, are you going, so I still don't know exactly for my son, FJ intro, like what things to buy before the class? Is there any, like a list of items you're going to send out? Like what?
Yes, go ahead, Hannah.
So if you go to our website, I just kind of updated this the other day and added links and whatnot. So if you go to our website under like resources, there is a, what was it? It's called like basically a gear list of what all are like, ideally you want every one of these things in your bag. The biggest one that if you are ready to go, definitely make sure you get a life jacket that's specifically for your kid and fits properly. The idea is that when it's snug, when you lift it up, it doesn't go over your ears, right? Because they're gonna be in the water and you don't want it floating up over their head. Other than that, most of the things are on that list, and it's a pretty extensive list with links to different things to buy. So I would suggest going on there if you have any questions about what all you
This is a sailing gear, US Coast Guard approved life jacket, helmet.
Harley, come here.
Are you saying that we need to buy, I mean, the kids need to prepare the entire list mostly? That's what you're saying, right?
So yes, ideally you have that list of all that gear, but like I was saying a little earlier, maybe you came in after that, was that a lot of that stuff, like the jackets, the spray top, you can wear a rain shell. And as long as they're bringing lots of layers and none of them are cotton, you should be good to go.
Can I ask a question? I noticed that you have a second FJ intro class that starts on May 7th. And the timing of it I thought was a little weird. Does it just run into the summer? Is it a continuation of the earlier one? I wasn't quite sure.
It's an add-on because it's basically, which is great. There are a ton of you that want to get into our sport, and we are very busy with regattas and all of our other classes. And that's the first time that weekends open up. So it starts up in May.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So we sign up our kid to both the March one and the May one. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I think repeating Learn to Sail and or repeating the FJ intro is a great thing to do. In the summer, we get the luxury of repetition where we get kids day to day to day, back to back. And obviously during the school year, there aren't enough days or hours in the day. We don't have the repetition of having you every day in a row. So being able to take 2 sessions is excellent. And in the summer as well, we love when kids are able to take multiple sessions. I see that BB is raising her hand. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So mom of new sailor, who is like, I not only he loves sailing, he's getting his brother into sailing. Love what you guys are doing. Molly, you're amazing in the team. One thing about gear, I struggle with the gear at the beginning as well. And I found that having the boots, keeping their feet warm is also important. I don't know if that has been mentioned yet. So if anything that you want to invest in right away, I would say the spray pants that looks like the bib and boots. And then the kids can wear like thermal or, some sort of nylon top, and they would be warm with a raincoat. So if you want to invest in those 2, spray pants and boots.
I would agree with what she said. We did the same thing for my son's first season in the fall. We actually didn't go the wetsuit route because he didn't want to wear one, but with the spray pants, spray jacket, and booties was fantastic. It worked really well, even when the weather turned colder.
Awesome. The other option, because again, sailing boots, can be expensive, and anyway, so another option as well are neoprene socks, and I wore those all the time, and I could, as you get better and better at sailing, you can be pretty confident that you're not going to go swimming on certain days. And so a lot of the times I would wear those under like big boat shoe, whatever, like different types of shoes. Let's say you're going to go for the route of wearing an old pair of tennis shoes. You're okay with those getting wet. You can put a pair of neoprene socks, and they make them pretty thin, like they're literally like socks feeling, not like tight. You know, you can't move your toes, and you're going to go surfing in 50-degree water or whatever. Neoprene socks is another option as well if you, let's say the boots haven't come in yet.
Molly, can you explain the swimming bit? I'm sorry. Are you talking
So-
about like the kids fall in the water and so they get, I mean, it sounds like they get drenched head to toe. I mean, not that I'm afraid of them falling in the water, but like,
Good question.
how does that work?
Good question. So, so our sport is 100% a water sport, and I would assume when you come to practice that you are going to go in the water every day. When we launch our boats, both of our venues are at boat ramps that you walk into the water to launch. So your shoes, your feet, your body up to your thighs is going to get wet. So that's one part, and then the actual sailing part, that's just launching. And the actual sailing part, the potential of the boat tipping over and the somebody going swimming is there every day. Even when it's really light. It doesn't matter if it's like, oh, well, it's okay because it's not a windy day. You basically come to practice every day assuming that you might go swimming. And so that's why we kind of, you know, press like, hey, get a wetsuit, come in a wetsuit. Because then you're not kind of worried like, oh, but this is my like t-shirt or my shirt or whatever, and I don't want to get wet. A wetsuit's meant to get wet. The learn to sail class, so it depends on what class your child is in. Learn to sail FJ intro, your first day of class, everybody's going swimming. We do a swim test, capsize test. So capsizing is when your boat flips over, which happens a lot. And we basically make sure everybody's comfortable with flipping their boat over to actually tip it over and then to flip it upright. We flip the boat all the way upside down so they're comfortable with what it looks like when it's completely turtled and upside down, put it back upright. So again, they're going to spend a fair amount of time in the water, especially at the beginning of the class. And then as the season goes on, they might only be wet, you know, up to their thighs versus their whole bodies.
So just to kind of piggyback on that. So especially for like the learn classes that she mentioned, it's less of a capsize test. Like it's more of a like,
Sorry.
okay, we're all going to sit down. We're going to talk about how to do this. And then we're going to go do it. And the only thing that would constitute like not passing would be, say they get in the water and they're freaking out and they need to hold on to things and they can't just float there calmly. Like if there's an issue with like, I don't really remember this step, that's not an issue. Like we're all there to help. The idea that you get through your capsize test is that all your questions get answered. So it shouldn't be a scary thing. It's more of a, this is what we're going to do. And now let's do it. And so if that ever happens, you've pretty much, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is why Hannah is awesome and she's with all of our intro classes. I just like rattle it off the capsize test, but it's a lesson. It's one of the lessons that they learn before the class is over. And we start with that because it could happen every day. So it's one of the very first lessons. And the lesson is capsizing and swimming and being comfortable in the water.
And ideally our new high school kids are gonna have that. It might not be the first week or the second week, but if you haven't done it before, there'll be a week. And we'll put that in the chat like, hey, this is the week we're going to be doing capsize. Make sure you bring extra warm gear because we do want to make sure that every sailor knows what they're doing.
And where do you swim? I guess is the next. I mean, how far out from shore? What can I?
It's so again, kind of like when I say capsize test and swim test. The swim test is not a test. It's truly making sure you're comfortable in the water. So it's done right at the dock. And they're floating. Everybody keeps their life jackets on the whole time. We're just making sure that everybody is comfortable with the temperature of the water, you know, what the water looks like, feels like, you know, that you're able to talk to your coach that's, you know, 2 feet away and have a conversation so that when we go out on the water and we're actually sailing or working on something, you're comfortable enough and we know that the child's going to be able to listen to us and we can get their attention.
So just to, again, piggyback on top of that, as one of the coaches of all the Learn classes, the goal is that we like walk out to the end of our dock and they should be able to jump in the water and it's like float. And then to get out, they're just gonna swim around and come out the ramp. So it's really easy. They don't have to like pull themselves out of the water. We just want to make sure that they can jump in and not be freaking out. And they can swim from point A to point B. No need to do like proper breaststroke or freestyle. It just needs to be comfortable and you get from point A to point B. You walk yourself out and you're good to go.
These are excellent questions. I love it. In the interest of time, so we are at an hour. It is 6 o'clock. I am going to end the recording, and I am going to send this link out to everyone so you can all watch it again. Thank you all for joining. We are going to see you in just a few days or in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.